Hi friend, it's been a while since I made a video for you, so I thought I would bring you one today. I am doing the New York Times book tag. This tag has been going around BookTube, and I thought it was really cool. Obviously no one tagged me because I only make videos for you, but it's based off the New York Times by the book article where they interview different people and ask them questions, and it's really good. It's one of my favorites. You should check it out. So I'm just going to bring that to you. I also have a book haul for you coming up. I ordered some books yesterday and I went to used bookstore, so that should be coming soon. Totally broke our band, but whatever. And yeah, so thank you for your recent videos on the book haul and your review of Being Mortal. They were wonderful. So, okay, the first question in the tag is books on your nightstand. So really the books on my nightstand that I keep are the ones that I am reading. So currently I am reading The Adoration of Jenna Fox. This is a book that my brother was assigned to read in high school, and he never read it, but my mom read it, and I was like, can we please give this away? And she wouldn't let me give it away until I had read it. So I'm just trying to get through it. I mean, it's not bad, it's different. It's something I would normally never read, which I think was her point. I think it's YA, and it's about a girl who wakes up from a year-long coma, so we think. She was in this terrible accident, but there's a lot of mystery around, I think, like, who she is, if it really is the girl that was in the accident, or if she's some kind of, I don't know, futuristic thing. So, yeah, reading this. The next book that I started was Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. I've never read anything by him, so I thought I would start here. I'm sure you've heard of this book. I think you have it too, so yeah, reading this. And last but not least, I'm reading Louise Erdrich's Shadow Tag. This is a book that I heard about from Book Riot's podcast, Get Booked. And I have a few of her books and I've been wanting to read her. And this one was pretty short and it's pretty like a quick read. And it's about a woman who finds out that her husband is reading her diary, so she starts to keep a separate diary, and then writes like a fake diary that he reads. And so you get both perspectives, and I'm only like a couple pages into it, but it's good so far. So those are what I'm currently reading. And then the last thing that's on my nightstand, it's always on my nightstand, I guess it could be on my coffee table, but I usually just keep it next to my bed, is my wonderful illustrated Harry Potter, which I still have yet to read. So again, this is a book that I will get to soon, so that's why I keep it on my nightstand. It's just so pretty. Okay, the next question is the last great book that you read. This was tough for me because I feel like I read a lot of really good books. I don't read, let me just rewind. I always read books basically because I think I'm going to enjoy them, or challenge myself, which is, again, a great book. But the last great book that I read was the one I just finished, which is Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. This is the first in a 4-part series called The Neapolitan Novels, and it's set in Naples, Italy, and it's about the first book is about, well, the whole series is about these two girls, Elena and Lila. Oh, I'm blanking on her name. And it's hard for me to describe. I mean, it's just like, she writes so simple, but yet it's like this, for me, this book was a slow burn. Like, the character development is unreal, and the last paragraph of this book, like, crushed my soul. So, like, the whole time you're just, like, reading along, and it's, you know, it wasn't the most fast-paced book for me, because it's a lot about the characters, and, like, it's like those books that you think nothing happens, but then at the end of the book, you're like, everything has happened. It's just incredible. I immediately ordered the second book after I finished this one, and I loved it, and I think this series is going to break my heart. Okay. If you could meet any writer, dead or alive, who would it be? I don't know, this question is hard because there's so many. Obviously, the first person that came to my head was James Baldwin because I love him. I also thought, I don't know, there's so many. Virginia Woolf would be awesome. Margaret Atwood would be awesome. Ella Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables, would be awesome. Like, I don't know, there's so many. Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou, like, so many. Okay. Books surprised to find on your shelf. This one was hard for me. I couldn't really come up with anything because, again, if it's on my shelf, I love it. So even if I should be embarrassed by it, I'm not. So I don't really have any for that one. How do I organize my personal library? I have this shelf that you can't see that my computer is on. It's like all nonfiction but women, like so all my lady shelf. And then it goes into nonfiction kind of by category. So like I have books about race, and then I have books about adventure, and then I don't know. And then it goes down into more fiction. And then behind me is classics, and then just fiction. And then only this bookshelf behind me and the one that you can't see in front of me are the ones that I've really organized. I have another one in my other room, and then my closet is full of books, and they're not organized in any way. I really do want to go through and redo my bookshelves, so we'll see if I decide to do something different. How do you organize your bookshelves? It's a good question. I feel like we've talked about this before, obviously, because I've helped you organize your bookshelves before. But curious to hear where they are at right now. Books you've meant to read but haven't gotten to yet. Wow, all of them. So many. There's a lot of nonfiction books that I really, really want to get to. I could list them off, but there's a lot. And I have a lot of them because I buy them and I'm like, yes, like going to read. But the two that I immediately thought of that I'm going to get to really soon, like as soon as I have the emotional capacity to read them, are The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, which I've been meaning to read since I was in college. And this is pretty much the first book that kind of delves into the problems with our system, mass incarceration. So yeah, if you haven't heard this book, I would look it up. So I'm really excited to read this one. And then the other one that I've been meaning to read and haven't read yet is along the same lines, is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. Story of Justice and Redemption. Bryan Stevenson, I've listened to him on NPR, I've seen him speak, I've watched him on YouTube. I just haven't read his book yet. But he is the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative. So again, about mass incarceration in our society, and yeah, you know, that's something I really care about. So those are two books that I'm really dying to get to. Again, there's so many. Like, I'm looking at my shelves right now, and I could just be like, oh yeah, that one. Disappointing, overrated, just not good. What book did you find that you were supposed to like but didn't, and the last book you did not finish? Okay. I don't know. So the last book that I think had all the hype and didn't live up to the hype for me was Girl on the Train. It just, I was talking to someone about this recently. I do like to read books with unlikable characters, but for some reason with this book, there was some kind of wall up, and I was just like, I do not get it. Like, I do not understand. I mean, I do understand the choices you're making. You have an alcohol problem, but at the same time, I just couldn't get past. I don't know. There was something there, and I just couldn't get into that one. But I did just watch the trailer to that movie, and Emily Blunt is the main character, and I'm so excited to see it. I cannot wait. It looks so good. So that might be like one of those books that's like, the movie's better. And the last book I did not finish, I can't remember. I really can't. Because usually if I'm not feeling a book, I'll stop it, but that doesn't mean that I won't eventually get to it and read it. So, what kind of stories are you drawn to? What do you stay away from? I am pretty open with what I read, you know that. I definitely love nonfiction. I love stories about people who've done amazing things or write about, you know, what they're passionate about. I love fiction. I love literary fiction. I am really trying to branch out into fantasy. I think last year I read horror. I read Stephen King for the first time, or 2 years ago now. Like, I love thrillers, but horror is a hard one for me to get into, and sci-fi is hard for me, but not that I won't read them, I just, like, those are probably the ones that I don't read as often. I do read a lot of nonfiction and fiction, literary fiction, I don't know, everything. If you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? I had a hard time with this one too because I feel like there's a lot of books that I haven't read yet that I feel like I consider them required reading for myself, and I would hope that the President of the United States would consider them required reading, like Just Mercy and The New Jim Crow. But I narrowed it down to two of books that I have read, and so the first book that I think should be required reading is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. This book is one of my favorite books of all time. I think everybody should read this, but I think it deals with race in a really beautiful way. And like I've read this book, I think going on 6 years ago now, and I still think about it all the time. So probably due for a reread because I love this so much and I do recommend it. And then the other book that I think the president should read, this is also hard because, like, who are we talking to? Am I talking to Barack? Because I feel like he does a great job at what he reads. Am I talking to somebody else? I don't know. Is Borderlands, La Frontera, the New Mestiza by Gloria Anzaldúa. I read this book in college for a class that I took on borders. And this book is incredible. I was flipping through it when I was thinking about this question because I wanted to recommend books that I had read. And it's just so good. She's an activist, a feminist, a lesbian. She writes about being Chicana in an Anglo white culture. She writes about borders, but just being so many things. So good. Just about being an outsider, pretty much. And in our culture, about how many outsiders there really are and how that's creating its own culture, and about borders and what borders mean, and borders being lesbian in a straight culture, being a woman in a man's culture, being Chicana in a white culture. It's incredible. So I definitely think this book, and she also, it's prose and poetry, so it's required reading. So that is the end of the New York Times book tag, and I will come back soon with a book haul.